So remember, vote today. Here's some suggestions. I don't know if they'll take them, but
That's great.
we can remember that they were supposed to vote.
I think you just hold on. Part B.
Check. Fingers. Yeah. It's got a terror shoe. And once we get around there, fly over. They've already. I know. That's that bullet here. I got some here. Did you hear? Yeah. Do we need to turn these forms? Yes, if anybody has bigger form.
They have. So I think actually.
First, you said. Oh, okay.
What did you do?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All day long.
These days. So real quick, guys, after the chair makes a speech, to give everybody a quick heads up, if your case is not at the top of the agenda, then what we'll just do is, for people's cases that are being heard, will stay in here to congregate, to hear their cases or provide testimony. Anyone else, we have a waiting room here and waiting area out here. So I'll just come bring you guys in and out as your cases are being heard. So just hang out, let the chair make a speech real quick, and then if you're not at the top of the agenda, we just ask that. But one more thing, if your case, is,
Yeah, okay, I was about to say.
Do that first.
Yeah.
so Woody Point will be brought up first, and then everyone else just take a step out.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna go get started. Okay, good morning, everybody. If you're still signing in, please continue to do so. I would like to officially call the July 26, 2022 meeting of the Charlotte Zoning Board of Adjustment to order, and it's now in session. I am Douglas Wilson, Chairman. Also sitting on today's board is Deborah Dryden, Tariq Hamid, Hamilton Court, and Krista Long. Also present are Shad Spencer, our zoning administrator, Lisa McCarter, planning project manager, Tari Hagler Gray, our senior assistant city attorney, Jill Sanchez Myers, also our senior assistant city attorney, Terry Edwards, most you've already met, clerk of the board, and also Candy Thomas, who is our court reporter. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are conducting this meeting in person. This is the 7th in-person meeting of 2022. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by the North Carolina General Statutes and the Charlotte Zoning Ordinance. We conduct evidentiary hearings on requests for variances and appeals, among other requests. Before we begin to hear the cases on today's agenda, I would like to provide some important information on the steps that were taken to ensure that each party's due process rights are protected as we proceed. Notice of this meeting was provided to the applicants and the public in several ways. Notice of today's hearings was mailed to property owners within 300 feet of each subject property and notified the property owners of the in-person meeting. Notification letters also stated to contact the city immediately if there were any objections to the cases being heard on today's agenda. Notice was also provided by placing signs on each property and by publishing notice on the city's website. The notice for today's meeting contained information about means by which the public can access today's proceedings. Finally, any individual wishing to participate in today's evidentiary hearings were required to sign up prior to today's proceeding. This information was also included on the board's website. The order of the recommended agenda today will be as follows. The zoning administrator or a zoning staff member will identify the case and recommend approval of the variance with any recommended conditions based on specific reasons. The chairperson will ask if anyone wants to speak in opposition. If there is such a person, then the case will be moved to the regular agenda and will be heard at a later date. The chairperson will ask if the board has questions for staff or if there is any reason the board wishes to move the case to the regular agenda. The chairperson will then call for a motion and a second to approve the variance, and then a roll call vote will be held. The order of the regular agenda will be as follows. All parties who plan to give testimony pro or con must be sworn in. A zoning staff member will explain why a permit was denied or why a variance is requested. The board may question the staff member as well as the applicant, and also may question the staff member. The applicant presents their testimony for this case. The board may question the applicant, and the staff member may also question the applicant. The applicant may present sworn witnesses. They will be subject to questioning. Other parties wishing to speak, pro or con, will be given reasonable time to present sworn testimony. The staff and then applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal. The chairperson calls for a motion and a second to approve the variance. Then a roll call vote will be held. After hearing each case, the board will review those cases and render a decision. This is usually done in closed deliberations after hearing each regular agenda. However, agenda case. However, the board may elect to take up to 30 days to render a decision. You may remain present during the deliberations, or you may call the zoning staff after the session to receive the decision of the board. All exhibits must remain with the board. Exhibits were recommended to be provided to the clerk no later than 12 p.m. on Monday, July 25th, in order to be considered at this hearing. If your case is not appealed to the Superior Court after 30 days, you may pick them up or they will be destroyed. If you feel there is a conflict of interest of any member of the board or any association that would prejudice your case, please let it be known at the start of your case. The board is acting in a quasi-judicial capacity for purposes of this hearing and can only accept sworn testimony. While the board will not specifically exclude hearsay evidence, it is only given limited weight. The North Carolina State Bar has issued an advisory opinion that it is the unauthorized practice of law for any individual who is not an active member of the bar to appear for another or otherwise assist or represent another at a quasi-judicial hearing on zoning and land use matters. All applicants should have been provided with a copy of that advisory opinion as part of the application packet. So in short, means if you're not an attorney, don't act like one in this setting. If you are a property owner or a non-lawyer here on behalf of property owner and have not received a copy of that opinion, please notify the clerk. Please notify the clerk where documents will be provided to you. If, as a result of this advisory opinion, the applicant would like to request a continuance of his or her case, the board will consider such a request at the start of that case. Appeal to this board is to the Mecklenburg County Superior Court. You have 30 days from the date of the board's written decision in which to appeal in accordance with the North Carolina General Statute 160D-405D. In order to receive a written copy of the decision, any aggrieved party must file a written request for a copy of the board's decision by filling out the form, which must be filed with the board's clerk or chairperson at the time of the hearing of the case. You will hear 4 cases today, 1 recommendation agenda item and 2 regular agenda items and 1 appeal. So I know that Shad mentioned that we will be first doing the appeal today. I have notified both our city attorneys that I will have to recuse myself from this appeal because I live in the Steel Creek area and is part of the community. So with that, I will turn the meeting over temporarily to our vice chair, Mrs. Deborah Dryden.
Real quick, if anyone.
Mr. Chair, if you could just provide some additional information that you communicated to me about you living in the neighborhood, in addition to just living in the neighborhood. It's my understanding you've also participated in some conversations and some meetings, and you're aware of this subject matter prior to today. If you could just go ahead and get that on the record. Thank you.
Yes. Last year, myself along with Representative Terry Brown met with members of the Steel Creek Fire Department to discuss legislation in the Raleigh area. And I do recall during that conversation, this issue coming up, but it wasn't like a long, drawn-out conversation. It was just brought up. So I just felt like in the in the respect of transparency, to let the fire department know that, I do live in the area and I live in close proximity to the area. And so, and I understand some of the concerns they have. So it would be hard for me to make, a decision without having some biases. So I just wanted to be fair on that.
Thank you. And is there any questions or any objection to him recusing himself? Okay. No, you need to go say, yeah, you can go sit in the audience, please. Yeah, thanks.
You have your own microphone, right?
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to zoning. I believe there's going to be a request, or y'all kind of take the lead here.
Yeah, Mr. Iden, there is a request from the property owner that's involved in the appeal for a continuance, and we passed out the letter that was given to us from their attorney. So at this point, they're asking for you to evaluate whether to do a continuance or not.
It's up to you. Yeah, okay.
And go ahead.
Also,
I may speak on behalf. I'm sorry, Terry.
yeah, I just want us to get in proper order here. I see David Murray in the audience who represents the applicant. And now that our chair has had to recuse himself, we do no longer have a 5-member board. We do have a 4-member board, which is a quorum, but we typically ask if the applicant would like to proceed with this 4-member board or would like to wait until there's a 5-member board to get a vote on any matters.
Would the board mind if I talk to Suzanne real fast? Can I?
We would not. I'm
Miss-
sorry,
Miss
Deborah,
Todd.
Deborah Dryden, I'm sorry. I'm speaking for you.
It's okay, David. I know you.
I like this thing. Can I keep this?
Ms. Dryden, Vice Chairperson Dryden, would you like to recess the meeting for about 5-10 minutes until they come back?
Yes, let's officially recess the meeting for 5 to 10 minutes until the attorneys return. The Zoning Board of Adjustment will now reconvene. Ms. Would you like to make a statement, Ms. Todd?
That we have agreed to continue this until September. The reason I've requested the continuance is that the fire department was not notified about this appeal until June 9th. And they were granted administrative continuance from the July meeting in order to seek legal counsel. We were retained about a week and a half ago. In reviewing the application, we noticed that there are allegations regarding traffic, noise, reduction in property value, which would require us to retain experts as required by statute to testify on those things. And therefore, we are going to need until September to get ready in order to, afford the fire department due process rights. I don't know if you've seen the appeal, but effectively, they're asking that you prevent them from the fire department on their property.
Mr. Murray, comment?
We consent to the continuance until September. Our primary reason, we're ready to go today, but our primary reason is to have 5 board members here to hear this appeal. But we would consent till September. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spencer, you have comments?
No,
No comments.
all in agreement. Y'all can. vote.
Okay, board members, is there any discussion? Okay, shall we vote? Please, okay, Ms. Long?
He needs to make a
We-
motion.
Make a motion, yes, please.
We'll make a motion to continue this until the next meeting in September.
Okay, do I have a second?
Hamid, second.
Okay, Mr. Hamid? How do you vote?
Hamid, vote yes for continuance.
Okay, Ms. Long
Long, yes.
and
Court.
Mr. Court, I'm sorry.
Court, yes.
Okay, and Dryden, yes. So we will continue this until September the 27th. Thank you all for being here. Sorry that you were inconvenienced, but we will see you all and be prepared to share on September the 27th. Thank you very much. Mhm.
Okay, sounds good.
I think so, yeah. Clerk, you want us to sit here?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need to sit?
Symbols. 12, okay.
Here's your agenda right there.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Lisa, you can proceed.
All right, and I think I need to be sworn in.
Hmm?
I think I need to be sworn in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were already sworn in.
We didn't swear
Okay.
anybody because we just postponed.
Gotcha. Okay, do you affirm or make sure I have my wording right here? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth at the matter at hand? Okay, all right.
All right, this case is a street side yard variance request. The applicant is requesting a 7-foot street side yard, which is a 3-foot variance from the required 10-foot street side yard. And it's to allow an existing house to remain. So I'll give you a minute to look over your findings.
Okay, Lisa, you can proceed.
All right, government exhibit number 1 is a vicinity map of the property. Government exhibit number 2 is a zoning map. The zoning is R5 single family. Government exhibit number 3 is an aerial map of the property. And government exhibit number 4 is a close-up aerial map. And in this one, you can see the 27th Street right-of-way beside the property. It's kind of built to right behind the back property line, and then it's just undeveloped. Exhibit number 5 is background. The property was subdivided in 1950, and the recorded plat shows East 27th Street along the left side of the property. This portion of East 27th Street is not constructed, but it meets the definition of a street in the zoning ordinance because it's 45 feet wide and offered for dedication on the recorded plat. The subject property is a corner lot, and the street side yard is along East 27th Street. Exhibit number 6 is background. The zoning ordinance requires a minimum 10-foot street side yard along East 27th Street, and that's 1/2 of the required 20-foot setback in the R5 zoning district. In 2021, a new home was constructed on the property. The builder commissioned a survey at that time, and their survey showed a 5-foot required side yard, which is the standard side yard when there's not street right-of-way adjacent to a property. Since this is a corner lot, it should have shown a 10-foot street side yard. They got the permit. The permit plot plan showed 7 feet on that side instead of 10. And it was not detected at that time that it was permitted that the lot was a corner lot and that the side should be 10 feet. Exhibit number 7 is the variance request. The applicants built the home as indicated on the building permit application, and the new home is located 7 feet off the left property line. The applicants now wish to sell the property, and a survey was commissioned for the sale of the home, and it shows a 10-foot street side yard and a 3-foot encroachment. The applicants are requesting a 3-foot variance from the 10-foot street side yard for compliance of the home on the property. Staff recommends approval of the variance request. This is government exhibit number 8, considerations. The hardship wasn't caused by the applicant since they were unaware of the encroachment until the recent survey. The applicants state the encroachment is due to the surveying error used during the home's construction, which showed the 5 feet side yard instead of the 10-foot street side yard. Unnecessary hardships result from strict application of the ordinance and would require a portion of the home to be demolished. Granting the variance will not alter the character of the area, and the encroachment will not be easy to detect because that side's adjacent to the undeveloped right-of-way. And you can see in the graphics where the undeveloped street right-of-way is in the yellow. So kind of imposing that area on these photos of the property. So it leaves more space between the homes. The ordinance does have an administrative provision that would allow them an encroachment of up to 2 feet, but this is just over that. It's 3 feet, so it wouldn't qualify for that. Government exhibit number 9 is a photo of the property. And that's the end of my presentation, if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Lisa. Does the board have any questions for staff?
I don't.
All right. Terry, is there anybody here in opposition?
No, Chair, no opposition.
Okay. And Mr. Murray, the clients, are they here to speak? No, okay, just want to make sure. All right. Okay. That said, is there a motion to approve or deny the variance?
I make a motion to approve this variance.
Second. Long seconds.
All right, a motion's been approved to, a motion been made and approved to, a motion has been, sorry. A motion has been made to approve the variance by Mrs. Dryden and seconded by Ms. Long. Now we do a roll call vote. Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Long,
Long, yes.
Mr. Court,
Court, yes.
Mr. Hamid,
Hamid, yes.
okay, Wilson, yes. Okay, variance has been approved. Now we will review the finding facts and conclusions of law. Is there a motion to approve the finding and facts and conclusion of law?
Court, move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Hamid, second.
Okay, there's motion been made to approve the finding facts and conclusion of law by Mr. Court and seconded by Mr. Hamid. Now I move to a roll call vote. Mr. Hamid,
Hamid, yes.
Mr. Court,
Court, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Long,
Long, yes.
Wilson, yes. That concludes that case.
You're welcome.
So much.
Surveyors make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, no, yes, I was about to
You
say
notice
that.
that? Surveyors make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the second case we had for a survey.
How are they not catching those?
I know, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I have to give, I have to give them some time, yeah. Okay, now we move into the regular agenda, and the next case is case number 2022-48. I think everybody is here.
Our next case is a residential rear yard variance request. The applicant is requesting a 20-foot rear yard, which is a 25-foot variance from the required 45-foot rear yard to construct a single-family home on a property. And I'll give you a moment to look over your findings.
Okay, Lisa, you may proceed.
Exhibit number 1 is a vicinity map of the property. Exhibit number 2 is a zoning map. The property is zoned R3, single family. Exhibit number 3 is an aerial map of the property. You can see the outline of the property in blue there. Exhibit number 4 is a close-up aerial map of the property. So we have just the property. And then also I wanted to show the floodplain areas and buffer areas that go across the property. So they encumber pretty much all the property. This is Addison Drive, and Sharmapeg Avenue is up here past this property to the north. So it leaves just a little portion of the property in the upper right-hand side. Exhibit number 5 is background. Like I said, the front of the property is located along Addison Drive. That area is located below the community floodplain elevation, and what that means is there's no dry land access for emergency vehicles, which is something required by the floodplain ordinance. So the applicant actually got a dry land access easement over this property to the north. You can see it in yellow here. It goes out to Sharmapeg Avenue to give them that access that they need. They also got about 45 feet of rear yard area from this lot to the north. And that plat was recorded in 2020 that allowed them the easement and more land kind of out of that restricted floodplain and buffer area.
Is it, which one, is it the top piece or the bottom piece where they got the extension?
So this is the subject property in blue.
Okay,
And then here's kind of a blow up of this area. So they got it, the easement over here.
okay.
And then right here is where they got the additional
Oh,
land.
okay, thank you. That's
So the
what I
land
was,
used to just go across right there.
right, okay, thank you.
And they worked with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Stormwater on compliance with the dry land access requirements. I did talk to Charlotte-Mecklenburg Stormwater, and they said that this was in compliance. So I sure can. Thank you for letting me know. Exhibit number 6 is the variance request. The applicant is requesting a 25-foot variance from the required 45-foot rear yard to permit a 20-foot rear yard. And the light blue is the outline of the property. To the right, you can see an aerial and the approximate location of the proposed 20-foot rear yard and a close-up of the proposed building plan. So here's what it looks like when you look at the aerial. That's about where the proposed 20-foot rear yard would fall. And then here's the proposed building plan submitted by the applicant. Exhibit number 7 is considerations. The hardship was not caused by the applicant who purchased the property in 2022 in its current configuration. The hardship results from property conditions. The lot's over 2 acres, but most of the lot is encumbered by McMullen Creek tributary, a storm drainage easement, surface water improvement and management, and post-construction buffers, and floodplain areas, and that prevents development in those areas. The applicant states that the reduced rear yard will allow them to stay further from the buffer and floodplain areas and preserve tree canopy on the site. Preserve tree canopy. Public safety has been secured by the 14-foot dry land access easement that was secured by the previous property owners. Eight is photos of the property. The top photo shows the front of the property along Addison Drive. The bottom photo is a photo showing the property easement on Sharmapeg Avenue. And that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me, we also have folks signed up to speak in opposition, and the applicant is also here to address any questions that you have. Okay, sir, you have to wait for your turn. The board will call on you.
Yeah, sorry about that, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. Does the board have any questions for staff?
What is the required side yard setback?
6 feet.
And that's being maintained in this plat. looks like.
Correct.
What are the dimensions of the proposed pad? It's not really called out on the plan.
I don't have
Yeah.
that specific information, so that would be something to ask the applicant.
And I have to swear you in. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, the way this is going to work, assuming that the board has no more questions for staff, we'll hear from the applicant. I'll have to swear him in. And then we'll hear from everybody else that's in opposition. Because of the amount of speakers we have today, we just ask everybody to keep the remarks to no longer than 2 to 3 minutes apiece. So that way everybody has a chance to be heard today. So before you begin, can I please ask you to raise your right hand? And first, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand? Okay. And for the court reporter, can you please state your name and your address?
Christopher D. Falk, and it's 8521 Crown Crescent Court, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. You may proceed.
So the dimensions are right around 50 feet wide, and we went as much as 100 feet deep to include kind of patio scape and some of the backyard in that. The plans have not been designed yet, waiting on kind of how this was going to go. But that's roughly a pad for a house pad area. House pad, patio, and all landscaping.
Would you say the dimensions again? I'm sorry.
50 by 100 deep.
Thank you.
And our house will be facing the rear yard setback. So the front of the house will be facing the backside.
So saying you're going to be looking at
Wait, just 1 second. You definitely have your chance. Any of,
I was actually going to ask a similar
Yeah.
question. Did you put up the plot plan that shows that? So we can identify how it's facing?
So,
Use that one. Can I illustrate from here? So our access is coming beside this house here. We're going to face this house and have our side entry come in. Instead of the house facing down this side in the longer garage, we basically going to face this way and come in from that access easement off of Sharmapeg.
what, somewhere in this, what is this area zone? What's the area zoned?
R3,
So this particular property and the property around it's all R3.
correct.
this may be a question for Lisa. What's the front yard setback in this area?
are there any other questions for the applicant from staff?
So if you were to take properties along Littleton Drive, you'd have a 30-foot setback, a 5-foot side setback, and then a 20-foot rear setback, or no, 40-foot.
Per zoning, but
Per zoning.
they're deed restricted. So
Okay,
they
per zoning.
fit further.
Okay. But that's, the zoning is 40 feet from the 45, okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant? Oh, well, I'll have to, I'm sorry, sir, I'll have to swear you in. Yeah, sorry, we're just, when I mean questions from I meant from the board. Yeah, apologies, okay.
Why the decision to face the front entry to the north on this plan? Just kind of curious what.
So when you're actually walking in the property, the backyard just looks like a national forest. So it gives them the privilege of patio and then having the creek stream in their back and making the best out of what unusable land there is. So, and it also, when you're in there, you don't feel like you're in Charlotte. There's not many areas this big and wooded. And they're trying to preserve the woods. So my pad is not representative of the actual front of the house. I mean, it could be some front portion, but I'm gonna say the door is inset. Normally, their houses are not the front door at the very front, but there will be a part of the house there. But that will be roughly right now, I think as we said it, we were really planning on being 20 foot with a 25-foot, the house being 25 foot, giving us 5 foot for steps and whatever would come in off the front there and treating it as if it was a front setback. So I know in the rear, I don't believe steps are going to hurt us or things of that nature, but it's tricky since we're facing the front of the house to the rear. And it may even shift a little as well. They may even set up to, because there's some topography that is all going to the creek. So when the design comes, we may tweak the house just a little to run with some of that slope.
So just to understand, all this, their side yard will.
Correct. We can be 6 feet from that line.
Oh. So where this red line is, that dotted line, this is somebody else's property?
No, sir. That's the proposed new setback.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Where that would fall on the.
Okay.
So can you define that 20-foot rear yard as a 20-foot front yard? 30-foot front yard? Why the decision to identify or delineate that as your rear yard?
So we
Is
get
that a
the
requirement?
front on Addison. So you can only have
I got
one
you.
front. So then it goes to the rear.
Consider Addison Drive the front of the property because it abuts the street.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw the address being on Charmageddon. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So, in a zoning variance, a proposed pad, does that have any, does that carry any weight in what we're reviewing? We're reviewing the setback, not the proposed pad, right?
Correct.
So if we grant a variance, we're not granting them, a variance to put something in the footprint of that proposed pad. We're granting them a variance to put anything within the buildable limits of the site and the area ratios and whatnot.
Correct, just the rear yard.
They won't have to abide by that square that says proposed pad. They're just using that for illustrative purposes.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any
We'll
additional?
have to abide by the buffer lines if you see on there. So,
I do see it.
gotcha.
Okay, kind of went a little bit over here, but are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so now we have 5 speakers that are going to be speaking in opposition to this case. So the way this will flow is I'll call you up, just like how you saw with the applicant. You will be sworn in and give your name and address to the court reporter. And again, try to limit your remarks to about 2 to 3 minutes. And I'm just making sure that these are all, okay, great. All right, so first up we have, and please forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Kurt Gurger, is that right? Okay, you may proceed up there.
Also, very quickly, there was someone speaking that sent in photos. When that person comes up to speak, just let me know and I can pull up those photos.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you please pronounce your last name again?
Gogger?
Garger, okay. Okay, so Mr. Garger, do you, raise your right hand, Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand? Okay. And for the court reporter, can you please state your full name and address?
Kurt Gauger, address is 445 Littleton Drive.
Okay. All right, you may
Okay,
proceed.
thank you. As I mentioned, I'm on Littleton Drive. We've lived on our lot which is lot 6, if you look up there. Can I point that out real quick?
Yes, right here?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've lived there for about 25 years and have enjoyed our natural habitat behind us and the privacy that it was provided and all the wildlife, of course, which was a big reason we bought our property in the first place. Now, as we've seen, about a half an acre of trees have been already taken down. And it appears, based on this, that we're going to have a house basically on the edge of our backyard. Due to all that, of course, we're devastated by all this. Our privacy and likely our property values are going to be negatively impacted. Unfortunately for us, this hearing is about a rear setback. And as I found out, ours is just a side setback. So we've got this 5 or 6 foot buffer, which is next to nothing. Having said all that, we do believe that the builder should adhere to this conformity principle, which I read from the real estate principles book here. And can I go ahead and read that real quick?
Yes, go ahead, yeah.
So conformity results from the homogeneous and compatible uses of land within a given area. Therefore, properties in a given area will tend to be of similar size, style, age, construction, and quality. Adherence to the principle of conformity will result in maximizing property values. Failure to adhere to the principle will result in inharmonious and incompatible uses of land within the area, with the consequences of depreciating property values. And our residential area, we don't have an HOA, so ours, the conformity is accomplished through our zoning laws. And as you can see, by supporting this, or opposing it, I should say, it's going to negatively impact me even more because that red box is going to shift back behind my property even more. As a resident of Sherwood Forest, I don't want any more precedents set, which are going to then be used throughout and deteriorate our neighborhood even more. We recognize that Behringer Homes owns the property and they're builders, and that's their business, that's their livelihood, and they can build a house back there. I guess at this time, it's almost kind of just a plea to use, Chris, I know you're not Behringer specifically, but I just would also like to ask the builder to please be socially responsible, respectful, and to take into consideration our neighborhood and those of us who are going to be negatively impacted. Because you're not just building a house, you're building something that's going to be a part of our community once you're done and you leave. So that's just my appeal.
All right. But thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right. Next, we have Miss Maria. Maria Gori. All right. Time today. Okay. All right. Good morning, Miss Gori. If you would please raise your right hand And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter of hand?
I do.
Okay, and for the court reporter, please state your full name and your address.
I'm Maria Gori, Gori. I live at 4865 Stafford Circle.
All right, you may proceed.
Just want to show you. It is this one.
Right here? Okay. Yeah, it's this one right here with the pointer as she pointed. Yeah, this one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. My objection to the request for the variance is on this. I bought this property 7 years ago. I moved in 6 years ago. And I knew I was in a flood zone and that there is a creek back there. In the earlier years, I would get some water in my backyard. It has now gotten to the point that about 2 weeks ago, when we had a storm, the water came up to the 4th step of my deck. If you had an animal back there, it would not have made it. I have put in some raised beds and all the wood was run off. I had a cart there with 4 bags of soil, carried out, never to be seen again. I have an issue with the other side of the creek is higher than I am. I'm at the lowest point in that area. The bigger house you build, the more runoff there is. All the other homes have been torn down. My neighbor here, who will speak, has replaced his fence almost 3 times. This cannot continue. So I definitely would be against having an even bigger home. Because by the time you add patios, that's not permeable, okay? I have plenty of trees. I have so many trees that I cannot count them. I take care of the trees. I had a tree fall. I had it cut up, taken away. There was a tree that fell from the Behringer side of the creek. It tore down the power line. Duke came out, cut it up, but left all the big trunks on my side. I paid $200 to have that removed. I mean, I understand that the city wants to grow, but I don't understand. In my ignorance, I thought that was city land when I bought this, because it wasn't really clearly marked as a lot. So I definitely am against I can't stop the building of the home. Behringer already has bought the land, but I definitely would be against having the house even bigger or cutting back on the backyard that's required. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Lisa Policinio. Did I get that right? Okay, great. All right. And Ms. Policinio, if you please could raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
And for the court reporter, could you please state your full name and address?
Lisa Palacino, 4954 Sharmabeck.
Okay. All right. Okay, you may proceed.
Hello, good morning. We became aware of the variance request 1 week ago, and we have hustled to bring critical information to this hearing. I first want to say thank you to the zoning staff. You've answered a lot of our questions over this past week, and we appreciate your time. The surrounding neighbors are united in their objection to the builder obtaining a variance to build within 20 feet of the rear property line. We've submitted a petition with over 60 names now. We had about 50 by noon yesterday, and we got 9 more from those who were on vacation last week who came back into town. The most pressing reasons for this objection are encroaching too close to the rear property line will devalue our property. This is a community of ranch and split level homes.
A house in such close proximity doesn't fit within the neighborhood and the overall footprint of the existing homes. A 20-foot setback from the rear property line is inconsistent with the way this residential neighborhood is aligned, and it will diminish the community. It will devalue our property, it will encroach on our privacy, and it will have neighbors that are too close based on zoning guidelines. Seeking to reduce the allowed distance by more than half is unreasonable and is an intrusion on our privacy. There is no unnecessary hardship on the builder here. The builder can design and build a home that fits within the property that they bought without encroaching on our land by building an appropriately scaled house. I'm sure the builder determined that there's space to build a house. An assertion of hardship by them with land that was recently purchased would suggest perhaps a lack of due diligence on their part, and we shouldn't suffer due to that. A variance is intended for an unavoidable situation. Here, the builder should be able to capture the value of the land without needing to build within 20 feet of the rear property line. They don't need a variance to make a profit. Sorry, I'm nervous. Making homes too close to the property line, according to zoning laws, sets a poor precedent, which could potentially open the floodgates for other builders to ask for variance. That helps maximize their profit, but having an adverse impact on the neighbors, on all of our neighbors. There is ample property for the builder to build a beautiful home, and we will welcome a new neighbor because we're a great neighborhood who support each other. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm sorry. There's ample property for the builder to build a beautiful home in the space that they have that would not detract from our quality of life, that would not detract from our property values, from our landscape, and from our privacy, and without taking down more trees. We believe the city values residents' rights and versus builders' profit margins. The zoning setback requirements are in place to protect our neighbors. We respectfully request that the zoning board deny the variance to preserve our neighborhood. Thank you for listening. I live on lot 68.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have Jason Riley. Morning, Mr. Riley.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good.
All right.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do, sir.
Okay, and for the court reporter, please give her your full name and address.
I'm Jason Riley. I live at 4954 Charmapeg Avenue. So I'll be brief. I think Lisa pretty much nailed it. Sorry, I'm not as good an orator as her, maybe a little less emotional though. So this builder's been in business for several years. They knew exactly what they were getting when they bought this land. The 45 feet apparently is not enough for them. Now they want to take another 25 to get it closer and look at my backyard. That's kind of, a problem. Their assertion that they need a variance to preserve the mature tree canopy. That wasn't given too much thought 6 months ago when they cleared the lot. Lisa, if you could show my pictures at this time, that would be great. So it's kind of hard to see, but this one right here is about this big across. So clearly they'd have no qualms about cutting down big trees and preserving the mature canopy. So using that as a reasoning for their variance seems a little bit weak to me. If they didn't have a plan to build a particular home to fit the lot, I'm not sure why they felt they needed to clear the lot 6 months ago without a plan. But suddenly they decided that they need to move inside the established setback to build a home now. The fact of the matter is they've cleared more than ample space to build a big home that is, more than capable of capitalizing on the space that they have. I don't see how they can't design a spot that can fit in there without requiring a variance to set back more than 50% of what's established in the zone. I respectfully request that the board deny this variance. Thank you.
And again, to clarify, we don't have addresses on our map. Which
I'm the top lot again.
Oh.
is that lot 2?
That,
Go back to the,
Oh,
Yep.
you live at the same place?
yes, ma'am.
Oh,
And to answer your earlier question, my back door to their front door would be about 70 feet.
Oh, it's that one, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Raleigh. Okay. The last person we have today that would be speaking in opposition is Mr. Galen Grayson. Did I pronounce your name right? Oh, you got two more? Okay, I didn't. Oh, okay, sorry about that. And you're Mr. Grayson, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. You said we have one more or two more? Two more, okay, all right. So Mr. Grayson, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand? Thank you.
Yes.
All right, and please give the court reporter your full name and address.
Galen Grayson, 453 Littleton Drive.
All right, thank you very much. You may proceed.
First, I would like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak. And secondly, make a request that in the future, 1 week notice gives very little time for research, consultation with real estate attorneys. I'm a physician, canceled clinic today to be here. So I would appreciate, and I know your schedules are already preset, but more time would be very valuable, especially when the property is not even, no bricks have been laid thus far. I had some confusion about the 40-foot versus the 6-foot rule, but that's been clarified for me, and I appreciate that. I've been at our address, which is next to Mr. Gogger, so I'm one house up, closer to to a lot of this one. Down, right, one down, right there. That's, my wife and I moved into the neighborhood 26 years ago, and we were blessed with 2 children, one year later, and then subsequently 2 years later. So we've raised our entire family at this location, and we have no intention of leaving. We purchased the home for many reasons, but it was called Sherwood Forest, and we felt we were very fortunate and blessed to live in front of a forest. I knew that there was a family that owned the strip behind us, and some communication that my wife had with their owner. There was never an intention to build back there, and it's your land, and you certainly can do what you want. So I do not hold that against the previous owner or who sold it to person A, and then subsequently Behringer purchased it. That's their prerogative. My neighbor and neighbors stated many reasons for concern that include effect on property value and potential effect on property taxes. So I won't reiterate that. But another key matter, which is in play today, has to do with property privacy. And there's little doubt for me and my family, we have what will look directly out at the new home. On one level, we'll have a bedroom and a bathroom, and then on another level, we'll have a large family room. So that those windows look directly out at the backyard. So there'll be a direct impact from that standpoint. I'm pleading with the builder. I know your footprint hasn't been stated in terms of what type of house or size house or how many stories, but I hope, I'm assuming there's a request. Once you have your plans, you resubmit, and I'm going to ask in advance that you consider not allowing a monstrosity 3 to 4 story structure that literally, not just from a space standpoint, but from a height standpoint, encroaches on our privacy. A mega mansion behind my home will compromise my home's value, and equally, if not more importantly, my home's privacy. I've heard numbers in the 2.4, 2.5 plus million range. So I doubt that is going to be a ranch with a small footprint. I'm assuming multiple stories, and I just would like, as was pointed out in the North Carolina real estate, whatever that book was that Mr. Gogger read from, conformity into building, there's a reason for it, and I won't reiterate that. So I plead with the builder or those representing the builder to be creative in your design to accommodate those who will live around this new home. Please set the construction as far away from neighboring property lines as possible. And, you know, as I previously stated, a multi-million-dollar structure towering over my backyard will be devastating to my family. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grayson. Just the last one? Okay. Next we'll have Finchen Jevier. Finchen, okay, great. No, you're fine. If you wanna sit where you are, you wanna come here? Okay. All right. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And if you could, please raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
Okay, and please state your full name and address for the court reporter.
It's Fred Fincher, Fincher, Gerald, Jarrell. Gerald. Okay. I signed up as being in opposition, but I really I had questions that I wanted to ask the contractor on this, I live at 4857 Stafford Circle beside Maria, which is on the, I guess, the west side of the creek. I'm beside the four homes to the north of me, which were bought by the county to avoid having insurance problems with flood. So I knew I was in a floodplain when we moved there. That has gotten worse and worse every year. My wife was supposed to be here today, but she got called to work, so I'm here. But I'd like, with the permission of the chairman, to pass this video around showing the flood that happened last Monday, 2 weeks ago. Is that okay with you, sir? All right. So my concern, I guess, is with respect to this variance is what the effect is as far as allowing added stormwater runoff to not only Maria's backyard but mine. And if anyone has made any type of assessment as to whether the variance, if allowed, how would it affect the stormwater from that area to the creek? Have you?
Definitely, I will plan to talk to y'all after this and share all the information.
Well, if it adds, if an assessment's been made and it adds additional stormwater runoff, if the variance, allowing the variance allows additional stormwater runoff, I believe I'm entitled to know that on the record.
It does not increase runoff than other than what is there. We're going to control and maintain a better point load than what is running across that property.
All right, and you mentioned that if the variance was not allowed, it would require additional additional tree removal, I guess, because you would have to move the home further to the south, I guess, right?
So what's not shown on here is there is a drainage feature that stormwater has behind us, 3 or 4 lots down, Charlotte Explorer shows it. They do not have an easement on it. Pipes come, they dump out into this property and run to your creek, well behind where our house is. If we're going to move the pad back, we are mowing down all the trees there because of the topography. We're going to have to regrade to capture, to better handle the water that's coming out of the city stormwater pipe in between the two lines. Because if we start getting back there, we can't just sheet flow this water straight to the creek. So moving it up, there was an abandoned easement that is not, doesn't even have a ditch on site. Moving it up leaves us from getting into that stormwater problem. You can leave it almost as natural. We can clean it up with energy dispacers, with riprap in the ditch, and other mechanisms that will slow the water to the creek coming off of Littleton that shoots across. If we go backwards, there is no other way but clearing the trees, reshaping the ground to control the stormwater, which, to y'all's point, privacy, man, it's going to be a fence. Else they're going to just have to mow it down.
How many additional trees would you think you would have to remove if the variance was not allowed?
Something like that.
You're going to clear every bit of usable space from buffer to property. Because it's not just a house. It's a backyard, it's living space. That again, they're going to sell at a price point that the people that want to move in and raise their family want to have something to a point. So, but none of this is going to be haphazardly done without proper stormwater controls and recognition. The city requires their own checks and balances with the creek. So does the county, with it being in a swim buffer. So we're not impacting what you would think, and we can't help what comes upstream from us that comes through here.
Like tennis balls and lumber and water and Coke bottles. Okay. I know this is not, that the hearing is not with respect to that, but that is my concern, and anything that y'all can do to lessen the effect, regardless of whether the variance is allowed or not, or lessen the effect of stormwater from that area that was once vegetation and trees, which are no longer there, of course, to the creek, we would appreciate it.
Again, regardless of the decision, I'm going to speak with y'all afterwards. Y'all have a ton of questions. I want to be transparent, and we need to open a line of communication with you and the builder anyway.
Okay.
So
All right.
we'll talk after this.
All right. Thank you very much.
House without the variance that fits in the space you have without moving it? Yes. The house that doesn't need a variance that you don't have to move.
You're going to be rid of all your trees.
No, you don't have to move.
Oh,
You could
Doug,
keep
where
it.
the path is now-
excuse me. I think we're kind of getting a little out of order.
Yes, I was, so I was just
Chair?
making sure that we had all our speakers clear. Is that all our speakers for today?
This last gentleman, and you all viewed his video, and it needs to be part of the record. Is there a way that you can forward that video to the staff?
Yes,
Talk with Terry.
Yeah,
Edward Terry.
okay.
Okay, all right, so that conclude, unless there's anyone else, okay, that concludes our portion of speaking today.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to
Yes, I would.
respond to any of the opposition.
Yeah, I
I'd
definitely
suggest-
was gonna do that. I just want to make sure we got all the folks that were in opposition. Okay, the applicant, would you like to respond to any of the comments that were made?
Yes, the variance request is not because they could not fit a house. It's not because they didn't do due diligence. Plenty of room to build a house. It was conserving the trees that they could conserve. They had to clear to make a building pad. We get that and get driveways and stuff in. Moving it up saves a lot of preservation, especially with the storm drainage problem that is between the two lots further down Littleton, that will be addressed if you clear it, which means now all those woods are gone and they're gonna put up a privacy fence. And then at least you would get a fence and some woods. So that's where we're just trying to say minimal disturbance as possible, and moving it up helped us do that.
It's fine.
That's all I'll say. And we'll talk after this to clear up any of y'all's things for certain.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we need to stick to evidence, not
Yeah.
questions and answers, any evidence in support or against the
All right.
variance.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you very much. Yes, I was going to that.
So you talked about if you have to move and stay within the setback as it is, that you'd have to do a bunch of work to make the drainage better.
The hardship is topography, correct?
So is there not a plan to do that with the variance still? Like, I mean, my question is, do you not already have something in the plan to take care of the drainage?
Where we've currently got cleared up there? Yes.
Are there any other questions for the applicant, either from the neighbors or staff? I'm not staff, excuse me, or the board? Yes, Mr.
Grayson.
Yes, Grayson, yes.
And again, the solution to me is take that for variance and build a smaller house. Is that under consideration by the bill?
Say that again?
There's the solution that you agreed to, I believe, was that yes, you can build a smaller house on the plot and not ask for a variance. So simply build a smaller house.
It's a size house, it was just the topography is our hardship.
But I guess my question is, can you not build a smaller house and there's no variance issue? Can you just build a smaller house?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yes, question.
Just to clarify, I think. Ours is considered the best side. Right, the most. 6 foot, 5 foot like that. There's, understand.
All right. Okay. Any last questions before we move into deliberations? Okay. 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 So this concludes our portion of presentation of evidence today. Before the board goes into deliberations, we'll take a 5-minute break. But when we come back, just for the record, when the board is in deliberations, you cannot speak to the board while we are deliberating. And again, board members, if you have questions for staff during deliberations, that will take us out of deliberations and back into the case. So just want to make that clear. So we'll be back, I guess what's that, 10:41-ish? That's good? All right, thank you very much. Yes, you can stay present during deliberations, or if you have to leave, you can leave, and then our zoning staff will send you the results. Thank you.
Combination of keys to make a sound. And so that's how we felt.
I figured it had to be some sort of up there, and I just never knew what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. She was talking to her.
I'll check with them. So,
Just for the record, I'm going to say that the board will now begin its deliberations. If the interested parties return to the room, they are not permitted to address the board during this portion of today's meeting. As I stated earlier, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion and vote. So with that, our deliberations have
So I guess I'll start.
Okay.
In going through our list of hardships, the unnecessary hardship, I feel like the strict application of the ordinance does result in an unnecessary hardship. There are conditions peculiar to the properties. I feel like that's there. I don't know that the actions resulted from the hardship did not result from the actions by the applicant. And so I'm kind of looking at the intent of the zoning ordinance and the conditions of the home in this particular, I don't know that whether the house faces the front or whether it faces the back is really consequential because the variance is going to allow them to do either one. I think the condition of this home in relation to the houses on Littleton Drive is pretty similar to the conditions of the lot 68 in relation to the homes on Littleton Drive as far as proximity to the backyard. So there are conditions just on the same street where there's a 45-foot setback in the rear yard and then a 6-foot setback immediately adjacent to it. So it doesn't seem inconsistent with just the proximity within the street there. So I'm kind of looking at that rear setback and the proximity of or the spirit of the zoning ordinance and my deliberation is kind of centered around the rear ordinance or the rear setback and the spirit of the ordinance for the rear setback. And I'm not sure I'm really convinced one way or the other on that, Lot 68 has their rear setback intact. And so their rear yard, faces, still has 20 feet beyond where their neighboring properties have only 6 feet beyond. So, I think there are examples of similar developments around Charlotte that have been constructed in this manner. So I don't know that it is completely inconsistent with the spirit of the ordinance.
Anybody else?
Well, I have some concerns. I mean, it says the applicant purchased the property in January of this year in its current configuration. And they knew that there was going to be existing hardships, and they've already gotten the variance for the driveway or for the easement so they can get into the property. And I don't know, I'm looking at the pictures and also their application, and it says on their application that the work hadn't started on the project, but they've cleared all the trees. That's kind of misrepresenting, I mean, okay, they haven't filed a building permit. But they have started construction on that property and that they've cleared all the trees. And they're one thing they're saying, they need this so they don't have to cut down more trees. But I think it is, when you look at our thing, hardships would result, I don't think it would be a hardship. I mean, either they're gonna have to cut down more trees or they do a smaller footprint for the house. Yes, it is peculiar to the property. I agree with that. And the hardship does not result from actions taken by the applicant. No, but I'm not inclined to approve this variance. So they can put in a patio on a house. And, because, I mean, if it was 25-foot variance from the 45, so they want another 20 foot for the rear yard. And if it was 5 feet, maybe, but I'm not convinced that they have to have this in order to build a house on that property.
All right, Ms. Long?
Board members are saying, I go back to number 13, the applicant's act of purchasing the property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of a variance shall not be regarded as a self-created hardship. No, they didn't create the hardship, but they were aware of the conditions of the property when it's purchased. So I'm inclined to decline as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Long. I am also inclined to deny this variance. I agree with what Mrs. Dryden and Mrs. Long has said, I should say. And that's pretty much all I will say from there. All right.
I got.
Yeah, I'm just going to.
I guess to follow up on that, obviously over the course of the last couple of years, somebody intentionally changed the delineation of this property so that it could be buildable. If they didn't acquire that property to the north, it would be almost impossible to build a house. So somebody intentionally kind of developed this to put a house on it. And as discussed, the trees were cut down prematurely, and unfortunately, but there's nothing that prevented them from doing that. I do have concerns based on the discussion that we had today about potentially that building pad could change and it would impact our landscape and our tree canopy even more. But there was a lot of opposition for this variance. And I do think you could still build a house on the property. So the intent of contractor, the builder to build something on this property is still maintained. It's just going to change its form potentially. But that's to be decided as they move forward with the project.
Any other remarks from the board before we come out of deliberations and go into voting? Okay. Hearing none, this closes our deliberations. And then now we will go into a period of voting. Is there a motion on the floor to approve or deny this variance?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Hamid, second.
All right, motion has been made to deny the variance by Mrs. Long, a second by Mr. Hamid. Now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hamid?
Hamid, yes.
Okay. Mr. Court?
Court, no.
Okay. Ms. Dryden?
Yes to decline.
Okay. Ms. Long? Okay. Wilson, yes to deny. Okay. So the variance has been denied. Okay. Next, we will review the finding facts and conclusions of law. Assuming that, I don't know if we need to make any changes since we denied it. I think it's,
Yes,
Yes, we do.
you must make changes
Okay.
to the findings of fact and the conclusions of law. So I would suggest looking at the conclusions of law, figuring out perhaps which ones of those, I think the discussion surrounded whether there was an unnecessary hardship, number one. and
yeah, I
number
think,
four. So maybe
Ms. Long
that
mentioned
might be a
about-
good starting place.
yeah. Didn't you mention something about or was it Hamid? I can't remember. Said that this was not a result of an unnecessary hardship. Somebody mentioned at deliberations.
Shall not be regarded as self-created hardship, which is correct.
Uh-huh.
That they were.
Okay. Okay. So, we need to change that under the conclusions of law or the findings and facts.
Sorry. Going on first.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at number 9 first. Rear lot line of the property was moved to the north, extending the rear of the property by 45 feet in depth and granting the subject property a 14-foot dry land access easement. So that's, it's already gotten one.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay. The hardship really wasn't caused by the applicant, but the number 13, the applicant's act of purchasing the property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of a variance shall, no, yeah. I think it shall be regarded as.
So number 13 is that's actually the law. That's actually in the statute. So it's restated here. So the fact that a purchaser knows, I'm going to have to get a variance if I want to build anything on that, and they purchase anyway, you can't hold that against them as, well, you created the hardship because you knew you would need a variance, and now here you are requesting a variance. So that's literally statutory language. So we can't change that, please. So number 19 is basically what you are finding in that regard. So that's different from 13 because 13 is the statute. So 19, you can find that granting the variance is not in keeping with the intent because that goes to conclusion of law 4, whether it's consistent.
Then you're saying unnecessary hardships would not result. Hardship does result from actions taken by the applicant.
I don't think there's any.
I think another one adding not in there
Okay.
is, all right, requested variance is it's not consistent.
And what about number 21? Because if you're concluding that unnecessary hardships would not result, I mean, you could maybe take out unnecessary. I mean, there can be hardships. I don't know. Yeah, hardships would result.
No. 13. 17, 19, and 20.
Correct.
All right, we take out the word unnecessary. Okay. 1 and 4. Yes.
Court, no.
I mean, yes.
Case number 20. Huh? Oh, he's getting, okay. Is, case number 2022-055. We're just waiting for, the applicant to enter the room. Anybody else, Terry? Okay.
This case is a non-residential buffer and side yard variance. The applicant is requesting two variances to allow the construction of two sheds. An 18-foot Class C buffer, which is a 8.5-foot variance from the required 26.5 Class C buffer. 18-foot side yard, which is a 2-foot variance from the required 20-foot side yard. And I'll give you a minute to look at your findings.
Okay, Lisa, you can proceed.
All right. Exhibit number 1 is a vicinity map of the property. The property is kind of close to the South Carolina border. Exhibit number 2 is a zoning map of the property. The property is zoned R3 single family, and it's mostly surrounded by other R3 properties. Exhibit number 3 is an aerial map of the property. Exhibit number 4 is a close-up aerial map of the property. Exhibit number 5 is background and variance requests. Since the property is zoned R3 and it contains a non-residential use, the required side yard in R3 is 20 feet. A Class C buffer is required for religious institutions adjacent to property that are zoned residential or in residential use. A 26.5-foot Class C buffer is required on the perimeter of the subject property adjacent to the R3 single-family parcels. So you can see this buffer, here's the buffer in green and the side yard in red. Previously, there was a shed on the left side of the church building that can be seen on aerial photos. There are no permitting records for the shed, and it appeared to encroach into the 20-foot side yard and 26.5-foot buffer. The applicants state they removed the shed in March of this year due to deterioration of the shed. The applicant now wishes to install two 12 by 20-foot sheds and is requesting the two variances, the 2-foot from the required 20-foot side yard and the 8.5-foot from the required 26.5-foot buffer. So over here is a by the applicant shed location, which is within the side yard. Sheds can be this is the side of the buffer is the narrowest. Side yard is shared by
Are there any other questions from staff for Lisa? Yes, Terry. Oh, all right. Okay, hearing none, thank you very much, Lisa. You should, oh yeah, I'm getting them. I'm getting them. Thank you very much. And I see that we have the applicant here today. Okay. So if you could, please raise your right hand. And do you?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, if you'll give them an opportunity to ask her any questions or to cross-examine her as well.
Okay, but I have to swear them in first, right? Yeah.
He's, that's fine.
Yes. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
Okay, and please, for the record, please, both of you state your full name and address for the court reporter.
Kurt Ostrander, my home address or our church address?
That's whatever home address is fine, yeah, yeah.
All Saints Lutheran Church, 17030 Charlotte Highway.
Okay.
Or Lancaster Highway.
All right.
Robert Ian Koch. I live at 1646 Maple Ridge Lane, Fort Mill, South Carolina.
Okay, all right, great. So now, do you have any questions for Lisa, staff?
Yes, could you go to the previous slide, please? I'm sorry, the slide that showed the location, the bird's eye view. Right. So you stated for the zoning board of adjustment that the location was directly adjacent to that house there. The drawings indicate that that is not the location. So could you please state the proper location, or can we agree that the location is actually exactly where the old shed is shown and behind that? So that is the correct location. Right.
Right.
Well, I think it's material that it's not directly adjacent to the house. It's actually. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yeah, no, I'm fair enough, but I think it's material because this location right here would be much more unsightly and viewable from the street. That isn't where the previous shed, if there's a bluff here, and this is actually down a hill, so you can look at the topography and see that the shed in its old location, the old shed, was very much hidden from the street. We never had any complaints about it. So we proposed to put the new sheds exactly in that same location because it's flat here and convenient. And as you'll learn through our testimony, it's very close to where the contents of the sheds would be used. And this is a dense vegetation here that provides a natural buffer. So I just wanted to point those things out.
All right, thank you. Do you have any testimony or presentation that you'd like to give?
Yes, I would like to go through our application. Some of the findings were directly in conflict with some of the facts that we put out in our application. So I'd like to go through those line by line, if that's okay.
Okay, it's fine.
That's fine. I think Form 1 establishes the facts of who we are, so we'll just open that quickly. Stated for the record, I'm Robert Koch. I'm the property manager of the church, and filed this application on behalf of the church. All Saints Lutheran, we're the property owner. So Form 2 be great. Thank you. Okay, so if you could pull up attachments to those, that's true. All the facts are correct there on the buffer request. If you could pull up application attachment A. Okay, so the reason why we applied for the variance, so we learned that about the Class C buffer and the side yard buffer through our application to place the new sheds on site. We had no understanding of these buffers. As a matter of fact, we had recently expanded the property or expanded the church structure and went through a permit process with the city, and that was all approved. And on those drawings, we never showed any Class C buffer or any side yard buffer, and those drawings were approved. So we had no knowledge of this until we made our application to place these sheds to replace the old one that was deteriorated by termite damage. So the reason why we're asking for the variance is just to continue forward with that application that we had made, because we learned about this variance. We were obviously not intending to make any place the sheds in any spot that wasn't lawful or it wasn't okay. When we learned about it, the most reasonable course of action was to request this variance. So, yeah, let's continue, please. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I'm sorry, could you bring back up the application? Okay, so the next question is, are there hardships associated with a strict reading of the ordinance? And so our attachment is intending to show why those hardships exist. So you bring that up. Okay, so what we did through our process was to look at all of the alternate locations where we could possibly place the shed. It's true that the property is large, and it's true that just from looking from a bird's eye view, it seems like there's plenty of places to put it. But in actuality, due to the location adjacent to Charlotte Highway and due to the topography, there are significant hardships with choosing a different location other than the requested location. So what we've done is we looked at all those alternative locations and did our best to show the entire property, that we considered everything, not just myopically focused on the one place that we wanted to have the shed. So so this just shows that the proposed location, this is what everyone sees from Charlotte Highway. This is our perception of it. So you can, that pod right there is normally not there. That's just temporarily holding the contents of the old shed. But this shows what the property looks like to the public. Most of the alternate locations that are flat and accessible are directly accessible from the street, which, you know, creates an eyesore. We put sheds right in the front of the church where everyone is seeing it. Not only the congregation members, but the general public would have to see those sheds, and it would create an eyesore for them. So that was judged as a hardship strictly because of the location of the church directly adjacent to a very busy highway. But can you continue down, please? Oh, there was more on that first exhibit, yeah. So this picture shows the bluff that I was talking about. This is another location. That is behind that basketball court. You can kind of see hidden behind those trees is our proposed location. Can you scroll down, please? Again, this is a similar picture to what was shown by the city. That shows the dead grass spot where the previous shed was. So the sheds would go right there, hidden between the church and that vegetation, and just behind there, which one shed would hide the other one. So you really only see the frontage of the sheds and nothing else. Next, please. That's the old shed. Gives you an idea of what was there. You can see the deterioration. It really needed to be torn down. So the termite damage really forced us into this position. Okay, this is just showing a back perspective of that same, showing the vegetation, the dense vegetation. Okay, continue, please. This is all covered. All right, so this is one of the alternative locations. I have a quick video I can show you too. This is very steep sloping. This is directly behind the church. This would be an acceptable location, both from a use standpoint and except for the topography. So it's very steep sloping here. So significant redevelopment would be necessary, and that hardship due to that topography is what we're stating. This is another considered alternative on this bluff. It's flat. It's not ideal from a use standpoint, but it's directly at the entrance of the church. So putting two storage sheds, or I don't even know that that's allowed by ordinance. I don't think it is, but this was judged as an absolute non-starter just because of its location right there at the entrance to the church. Continue, please. Thank you. This is another alternative location, again, directly viewable from the street and right there in the front publicly presenting area of the church deemed completely unacceptable. There is a steep sloping topography, more manageable, but also creates a problem topographically for drainage and the like. On this location here is directly off of 521 Lancaster Highway. There is some nice flat land there. The problem is the Class C buffer on that side would push us almost to where the sheds would be almost adjacent to that entrance, which I'm not sure if is allowed. And there's also a large buffer from the frontage. So it cuts a lot of this up. And also, again, we're stating just the location of the property due to Charlotte Highway placing sheds right there at the entrance to the church would be an eyesore for the public. And that's it. Yep. Go to the next. Okay, so the nature of the hardships that we're stating here are due to the particular topography of the property. So what I'd like to do now, if I could, can I play that video? This is just a quick 1-minute video where I walk around the property and just kind of show you from a direct perspective what we're dealing with and what the public would see. Which file? Just pull out. It's at the top level of the USB drive there. Right there. This is the front of our church. From the street. I want to give you a perspective. So I pan through, this is basically all of the areas that we're showing as the front of the church is viewable from the road. This is our entrance here. You can see it's just after church Sunday. The bluff here is to the right. You see these two gentlemen sitting and conversing. There's the entrance there. Yes, to give you the perspective of what it looks like in the flesh here. This is a closer up picture of the bluff. Just to give you another perspective here. This is the old main entrance for you. Just to face here right to the intersection. This is no longer used. This entrance is almost never even used, just as an emergency exit now. So here you see the side of the church where our shed used to be. It's more clear. The fact that it's very well hidden in vegetation. The property line is just in the center of that tree line there. Here's the old shed location. The sheds are proposed to go exactly in this spot, one right in front of the other. Just to give you an idea of what's going on, why the sheds. This is the here. The contents of the shed are used in this fellowship hall here. See, all these tables get stowed in there. More tables for when we have larger events. We set up shades just outside here. So this is the central fellowship area of the church. So I've listed help from another congregation member here just to give an idea of what the change would be if we were to make the shed location down the slope here. So if you don't mind, just walk down into the woods there to give a better idea. So Matthew is about 6'6". He's going to walk down to show that slope is very steep, and it continues down as you go down that hill. So I'll come over here to give you kind of a perspective of what it would be like to put the sheds down there. It's a very steep slope. Sometimes it's hard to see that on a drawing. I wanted to give a good perspective here in person. And it just continues down and down and down and down. So it could be done, but there's no way to do it without taking that slope into account, building in soil retaining structure, That's where we're claiming there's significant hardship. And just to take you on a walk down the path here, to give you an idea of what's going on back behind. Heavy vegetation that would need to be cleared and removed. So, little path here that gets us down into this retention pond that we dealt with as well. We changed and back here. See, we drove down everywhere. Everywhere is lower, and we're just getting further and further and further away from where we need to have contents of the sheds, or where the contents of the sheds would be used. But just take a quick walk through here. There is some flatter land here. This would probably be the easiest place to put it as a secondary place from a development standpoint. You see there's large trees back here, and we're again, very, very far away, which would be a hardship forever for anyone who uses this facility, not just our congregation. We'd have the contents of the shed very far away from where they would reasonably be used. So again, this is probably the second best location. We're asking for the variance so that we don't have to use this location because of the hardship associated with this particular location. Another cut here. This is a good picture here. The elevation change. That high bluff was suggested as a possible location. But as you can see, putting sheds here would be a significant eyesore right here at the entrance to the church. So that's deemed unacceptable because of that reason alone. It's just one more shot here. I realized I didn't walk down into the woods in this particular location. So I'm walking down a steep slope. This is just behind where the sheds are. I walk down to the left, down the slope. This location here where the property line that helps us. So this, we can actually put the sheds in this location here, and still be within the boundaries created by the buffer. But that's the point I was trying to make with the drawings, the close topographic lines. You can see here, this just slopes and slopes and slopes. Doesn't let up. Closer to the location, or this location is closer to where the sheds would be used. You see, we get down to the bottom here. There's a little creek here where the water runs through. So we're got to deal with that. And if you look up, see how high up the church is up there. So it's true that it could be put here, but there's significant hardship associated with this topography. That's why I wanted to walk you guys down just to show you that situation. Let's keep walking a little bit further. See the properties towards the back half over there. Now there's a flat spot here, but that's actually within as well, that flatter spot. So I hope this is making it more clear. Hardship plan based on topography. Corner of the property adjacent to Lancaster Highway. This is another location that's considered as an alternative. You can see this is right here at the main entrance to the church. The privacy buffer actually comes out enough to where we would have to approach. We basically have to put the sheds almost right up against this entrance to be fully compliant with that buffer. And the distance, you can see, get a better perspective here, seeing the people, you can see how far we would be from where those sheds would be used, where I showed you at the entrance to the kitchen there, where the shed had been for many decades, 2 decades at least. But just to give you an idea of where we would be with that location and the hardship associated with it. There's both an eyesore hardship right here facing the main road, and also very, very far from where those contents would be used. Significant hardship for anyone who uses this property now and in the future, not just our congregation, but really anyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to consider our application for this variance, and I hope our claims and our facts that laid out here, helping you to make your decision. Can we go to the applicant, the variance application once again, Form 2? Okay, could you open up attachment D, please? Okay, so based on our research, the land was subdivided in 2001. We purchased the property in 2003. I don't have the exact date for when the shed was installed, but it was right around the same time that the property was purchased. The sheds have stood there since 2003, maybe even before. Again, I don't have the facts there, but it's been a long, long time. We've had some turnover in the congregation. That's the best that I can establish. We've never had anyone complain about the location of the sheds. The old shed stood in that location for that long, actually inside of the buffer. And there was never, as far to our knowledge, never a complaint about that location. So we were surprised to even learn about the buffer, frankly, when we made our application to put the new sheds up. So believe that fact, that there has been no complaints, and there has been no concern about that location, is evidence that there isn't any injustice being done by this location, and this existing encroachment of the buffer that's been there for many years. Yeah. Yeah, so in general, I mean, I think we've made the case here that understand, and our congregation agrees with the necessity of these buffers and these side yards. There's no contest on those facts. But the question is there a hardship? And I think we've laid out the fact that there is a hardship associated with it. Was the hardship created by an action of the property owner? I think we've established that we didn't create any hardship. As a matter of fact, we learned about the hardship through taking actions that would have been, necessary to put the new sheds up. And then the question is, does it create an injustice? We have no evidence, but when we made our application of any injustice being created by this application or this variance being granted. So that's why we decided to make the application and ask the board to consider it and hopefully make a decision to grant that variance today. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you have anything to add?
Actually, Rob did a great job explaining our situation. I know that the old shed had been there for years, and we were just asking to put a newer shed in the same location.
Great. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant?
So you're replacing one shed with two sheds?
Yes, ma'am.
Are the two sheds are bigger than the one shed?
Correct, yes.
Staff to try. Great job.
We did have one meeting, but I think there was just from my interpretation, there was a difference of opinion on those facts. And that the staff can represent their position on that, but my feeling was that there was that path was not viable because of that meeting that didn't end well. So we decided to file for the variance so that we could take this path and which is our right.
Can I add? I think what was during that meeting, there was an assumption that a lot of the land was flat. So we felt that we had to really show the topography and take a close look at the alternative locations, and then we concluded that the existing location was the best.
Yeah, and to be fair, we hadn't done all this research at that time.
Yeah.
And we hadn't shown that in that meeting. I would have had I could go back in history and maybe make that claim then, but this is all volunteer work for us. We have jobs and we have other things to do. So that's my best representation of what happened there.
What was the size of the shed that was torn down?
It's about the same size of one of the shed, of one of the sheds that we'll replace. The new sheds were 12 by 20. That shed, the old shed was about 10 and a half by 18, 16, so I don't remember exactly. And if there's a question why we're asking for more sheds, it's because the old shed housed lawn maintenance equipment that was insufficient. It's very, very crowded. So what we're trying to do is have the lawn maintenance equipment separated and segregated from the stuff that's used and clean. So we can have those separated out, just as a practical matter.
And are you planning to place these sheds? I see from the drawings that original shed sat pretty far away from the existing church building. Are you planning to set them closer to the church building that would help with that that buffer?
We put them as close as we could practically put them and still be able to navigate around them with we would consider moving them closer. We could maybe get another foot or two, but beyond that, it would create an unsafe condition. And even so, even if we put it all the way up against the building, it would still violate the Class C buffer.
But I'm just saying, it's the thought process, I was just questioning.
What is the proposed location relative to the existing building?
The width of it?
Yeah.
It's on the drawings. I don't know, 6.5 feet, I think, 7 feet. It's shown on the drawings. I don't know that fact right off the top of my head. The site plan.
Yes.
I don't think it's quite 10 foot.
Between the shed and the building?
Between the,
Yeah, between the shed and the building. That area.
do you have our site plan? It doesn't.
I'm answering my own question.
Okay, that's fine. If that's what the drawing says, and that's what the drawing says, I mean, we could.
But you're suggesting it could move maybe still be functional.
I wish I had those there's a reason why we chose that, and I don't off the top of my head know when we're working through that. I think that you're asking, because now we're asking for 2 variances and it could just be 1. And we did have a discussion on this. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think, you're talking about the accessibility between the shed and the building?
Yes.
Because that's where the main hose bib is for the property.
Right.
That's where we have the hoses.
We needed room to drive around it, not break it off of there.
We didn't want to get too close where you couldn't get a lawnmower through there or even access the hose bib for watering our trees.
Are there any other questions?
It's all just practical stuff. We're willing to, consider it. I mean, we can figure out a way to make that location work. We'll definitely be willing to work with you guys or the city.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know that we have folks here in opposition. Okay. Yeah,
Sure.
have a seat
Thank
here.
you.
Come on up. Okay. Okay, good morning. If you could please raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
I do.
And then for the record, if you can, for the court reporter, please state your full name and address.
Janice Moore, 17136 Carolina Academy Road, Charlotte 28277.
And I'm Eric Scott, 17142 Carolina Academy Road, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28277.
Okay, great. And do you have a presentation or that you need to share?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm speaking on behalf of Churchville Estate as a resident. We oppose, we're in opposition of both variants. After looking at the application of Mr. Couch, it shows a lot of definition of hardship. It kept saying hardship, 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 hardship. And I just want to give it a definition of hardship. Hardship is severe suffering
financial hardship, oppression, unpleasant condition, life of hardship. And I don't think this falls in any category of hardships. Not once that was mentioned anything about the community of Churchfield Estate, which pretty much backs up to the church. And the reason why we're in opposition and we're denied the variance is because it will be a major eyesore, not only for the Lancaster Highway and everyone that's just driving on Lancaster Highway and Academy Road, but it's going to be an eyesore for the community. The community, we're a small community, but a high value community. The average homes, we recently had homes that sold for over 800,000, 900,000. And to see a big metal, this is not a shed. We keep hearing shed that is being proposed, but these are metal buildings that are being proposed. And those buildings definitely will be an eyesore to the community. So we're just asking right now to the board that we do not let this go forward. Now, there are other sites that's can actually accommodate the metal buildings. And if you can go to, and I'm going to be quick, but if you can go to figure 8, alternative option 2, and this is from. Okay, this is perfect, and this is pretty much from the application. So, and this is the number 2 location, and it's looking at it from the north behind the church of the clear slope. This is ideal, and it's also indicated that this location here will be ideal. It'll be out of sight, not only for the community, but those just driving, those passing by. And this is a little slope here, but this can be filled in with dirt, leveled out. As a licensed general contractor, the state of North Carolina, this is an easy fix here. This is not a hardship here. And I'll be more than happy to assist if needed with information that how this can be taken care of. We're just asking that you take in consideration that a hardship, this is not a hardship. Like I said, the community, we don't want this here metal container to be an eyesore for the community and bring the property value down, and it's just really not a good look. If you want to add anything, because Janice's house is right there near the buffer, and my house is the very next house. And I don't really want to have to come out of my porch and explain to my neighbors, my friends, my family, why is that big metal container there that is 480 square feet? It's not a shed. It's a big metal container. I just want to get for the record. We just and this information here that we have, it's just we just, like I say, we don't want this to be something that the whole community is just going to want to know why did we let this happen. Want to add anything?
Yes. The shed is no replacement because it was a little thing, the old material, whatever, but now it's a structure. It's 10 times bigger than the former. It's 480 square feet, and it's metallic, and it's gonna be just in my border. I live in the very next house, and now I have a deck, I have a beautiful backyard. Together, we pay the gardeners. It's a community feel. We have pictures, but it's not, all this is green, is beautiful.
Exhibit, yes, if you can go. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and that is our backyard. That is my house, yes. And that is the backyard we have together. The whole 4 houses, we share that green field. And then the sheets is, this is the vegetation the church is saying is a buffer. It's not. Because this vegetation is going to be removed. If you see, I put this mulch recently, and this is going to be clean and removed because it's a lot of mosquitoes, it's a lot of things. We, together, these 4 houses, we are working and clean this area. Then we clean this area, and what is we are seeing right now, we are seeing in here, see, here, it's gonna be, behind this, it's gonna be those metallic, enormous metallic gray buildings, because there are 2 buildings, it's not a shed. Then what I'm planning to put in here eventually a swimming pool or eventually a in-law suites, whatever I'm planning to do is going to be just in the border of those enormous metallic buildings. Nothing to relate with the style of our houses. See, we are in the same style. What has to be related to the metallic buildings? We are now in an area for industrial area. The shed he has before, the church has before, was relative like for a house and was years ago. We have nothing to do with that. But now, bringing this project is really eyesore, especially for my property. How I can sell if I want to sell? I'm by myself, I'm divorced, I'm working. To maintain my house, I did by myself this house. I built in 6 years ago by myself. And this is really damaging the value. And I have nothing against to the church. We were in very good terms, but I would never expect to put metallic industrial things just in my side. And it's the whole property. The whole property is gonna oppose because we are 4 houses. We have the green, and we're trying to have the most beautiful. This area is community. This is me, this is Eric, and it's a doctor in this White House, is another 2 people, they want to come. That is the reason I said we need more time. On Friday, as soon as received the plans, I sent a letter to Mr. Terry saying we need to postpone because we need time to be prepared. Like they have videos. That video has nothing to do with the hardship because they are not putting the shells on the vegetation. No, they can put on the slope behind the church. It's just a little green slope. It's not that vegetation like the video is showing. It's showing like they are going to the jungle. No, they have the large property. They have enormous property. But that slope Eric showed, that is perfect for whatever sheds they want to put behind the church. If they think it's an eyesore for them to put on the front or on the parking lot, can you imagine for us how it is to live next door to the metallic buildings? We didn't buy the houses in the industrial park. It's a community. And we pay a lot. That is my sacrifice, this house. I'm by myself. I don't have husband or households or kids or something. My son is living on the first floor now, is paying me rent to support our household. Now the value is down. If they put that, the value is going to be down. That the slope on the back, Eric was following, that could be, yeah, that is my house.
Right next door. And when you,
Yeah, but that was very small, was regular, normal.
this is way twice the size of that little shed.
You see what is the dimensions on the metallic buildings? Nothing to do with replacing a little shed. And that little shed was already there. I couldn't do anything when I built my house. But we're trying to maintain, even they put the nice plants, and we always take care of the plants. I water the plants, the trees between both, because the church put those beautiful plants, and are trying to maintain that. It's beautiful. What now they want to put those metallic things, just damaging the whole images.
So that's why we're pleading to deny both variants.
I have exactly here, I don't know if you can, exactly here what they can do is a proposal. Is what they location. This is but this is an example, it's not.
Would you,
Exactly.
would you like to submit that as an exhibit?
Yes, please. I sent it to, with my email, I don't know what,
So this picture.
yeah.
Absolutely.
This and the sloping here is not bad. It's just a little slope, but it's clean. It's not this jungle here. They show the video going through here. This is very clean. It's just little slope. Like Eddie said, he can help on that. He's a contractor.
That's a little slope. That's not a steep slope. That's
Yeah, it's little. It's just little slope.
just need to be built up and just have a little drain off. I mean, it's not a big slope. And that'd be a perfect idea. Away from the community and away from anyone looking.
This is very,
The building.
yeah, like the video shows, this is very intense vegetation, but this is clean. They have just grass in here.
We're willing to work with them. We just don't want the community to be an eyesore for these big buildings that you're looking at, these big metal buildings. So we're opposing the both variants.
Okay, all right. Is that the end of your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I will allow the applicant a few minutes if you would like to respond to anything that they said. It doesn't matter, you can stay right there. Yeah, just need the mic. Yeah.
So I just point out that they are in fact sheds. They're metal sheds with concrete floors. They didn't have to have concrete floors. But they're just metal sheds. They're essentially the same height as the previous shed. The previous sheds were wood construction and pink in color. The new sheds are metal in construction with a metal roof and matching in color to the existing structure, to the church building. So this is an improvement to the aesthetics that I said before. We never had any complaints about the sheds that were already in this buffer. I'm learning today about this opposition. I apologize we didn't have a chance to come and talk to you guys. Like I said, we're all volunteers at the church. It was our intent to come and talk to the neighbors, but we didn't have a chance. But likewise, we didn't hear anything until today about these concerns. I don't have contractual quotes on what the cost would be to manage that slope behind the church, but I can tell you that it is deceiving when you look at an aerial photograph. You look down and you see grass, and it looks like you just got grass and then you just flatten it up. But that slope continues down. You look at the drawings, those topographical lines continue down very close together. So managing that steep of a slope is a significant hardship, and to say it isn't is just not representing the facts. We would love to put the sheds there, honestly. We would, and it wouldn't even be a problem. It just has to do with that topography right there. We didn't have any offers of help as we were considering this. We didn't have anyone reaching out to us offering to help with this problem. Like I said, we're learning about all these facts now and here as this application is being considered. That being said, it's also true that I have not moved to assess the cost of mitigating that slope yet. But just as a practical matter, you can look at it, you can see from the evidence that I presented, you can see from the topographical lines that it's a very steep slope. So I just ask, can I ask questions to the opposition or no?
Yes, you are allowed to do that, yes. Yeah. And Lisa, can you please go back to the picture where it showed the original shed? I think it was like a it was like, I think, oh, sorry. Oh, that's not true. When you were giving your presentation, you showed a picture of the original shed. It was like at a ground level.
Right, right. So that is in our application. That would be an attachment A, I believe.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, yes.
That's why I was asking why it was so far away.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah. Okay,
That's it there.
so you're saying that the new ones are going to be the same height as that?
Right. It'll be the same height. It'll be a shed. It'll be a shed. This is not a steel building. This is an empty shed with a door, the roll-up door in the front, roll-up door in the back, intended as an accessory building, intended to store tables and, equipment for holding large gatherings in the front shed, and intended to store lawn equipment as this one did both of those functions. Now, the new sheds will provide that function in two separate structures. So we have more room, and so we have a permanent structure that won't be deteriorated. As a practical matter, won't be deteriorated by termites. The color will match the exact color of the church, white and gray. So it'll be an improvement to the aesthetics, not a degradation. An improvement to the aesthetics that have been there for, like I said, many, many, many years with no complaint.
And are you gonna have to cut down any trees, anything like that?
Negative.
There's no vegetation to be removed.
We have to do some minor grading and water and runoff management there at the location of the sheds, but that's the extent of it. That's based on my understanding.
And you said you had questions for opposition, or the opposition have questions?
I was just wondering why you think it's a metal building. It's a shed. I mean.
We only received all the yellow. Sent emails out Sunday. So she was 20. About this outrage, and this was Monday, because I sent an email Sunday. A lot of the wanting to be. The deadline was yesterday, 12 o'clock. Mention it to the whole association. Say, hey, it's doing.
Yeah.
That wasn't done. It's like, I passed that on sheds here on the facility. We're so close.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? Since, okay. That's at the end of the day, that's all.
Right. We did consider that. It was really just the fact that we have volunteer labor and the time associated with it. So, I apologize for that. I can tell you, we don't control the notification process. We filed our application on time and based on the process and at the notifications at that point, it's not something that we control. So the fact that you got that notification at that time, there's really nothing that we could have done about that. There's no intent to hide anything here. I mean, the sheds had been, it's really a surprise, the opposition, because of the location of the sheds there for so many years with no complaint. I mean, have you ever complained to us about the sheds?
It was
Right.
in March, yeah.
Yeah, as I stated, the sheds were removed in March and during our application process to place the new sheds. The sheds had to be removed regardless. They were they were creating a problem because of the termite infestation. So they had to be dealt with. There was a single shed and it's on lots of drawings. It's actually almost, quote unquote, I don't know if this is an official term, but grandfathered in. Oh,
Yeah,
my mistake. Yeah, there was one shed originally, correct. One hidden behind the other.
Mhm.
Right. Well, no, that, there in the, we have as an attachment to our application, the drawing of the exact shed. Could we bring that up just for the record? Thank you, sir.
Question right now. So by us opposing their variance, how does that work? Boy, I can decide on more forward. This is.
So if the board decides to, because right now, staff has requested that the variance not be approved because it does not meet the criteria of the zoning ordinance. If we go along with staff, then then the variance is denied. But we have the right to also approve the variance even though staff has requested it's denied. If we were to approve the variance, then they will go ahead and have the ability to build it. If we do not, if we go along with staff, they have the right to appeal within 30 days, either to the board or to the Superior Court. So I would say if we were to approve the variance, you would have the right to appeal on your end. And if you appeal it, then you would have to meet with the clerk to the board, and then it would come back before us again. And we will have to decide whether or not if you have precedent to go ahead with the appeal, and the same goes for the church. if we were to deny the variance, they have the right to appeal as well and go for the same process. So that's how it would work. Okay. Right. You said you had something else to show
Yeah, I
real
just wanted to
quickly?
show, it's a generic drawing, unfortunately, it doesn't show the particular structure. But if we could scroll through, it gives you an idea of what the sheds actually are, what the construction is of the sheds. It's a steel frame shed, Carolina carports. It's not an industrial building. It's just a metal shed. That's the point I was trying to make. So.
Thank you
And the
very much.
exact height, I don't have that figure, and I apologize. I wish I did, but I don't
Yes.
believe it's 15 feet.
That's fine. All right, thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry, we'll have to close it there and go into deliberations. Unless, do you, staff, board have any questions? Okay. Shad, you had something to add? Okay.
We can just do closing statements if they want to.
Yes.
Is it possible, could I converse with the homeowners association before and see if we can come to an agreement before, or is this the last, this is the first time we've even had any time to talk. Like I said, we didn't expect that this would be a problem just because of what.
As far as you're asking if you can talk to the HOA before we make a decision today?
Right, I mean, if we can come to an agreement, I mean, I think that's the best outcome. I just wanted to make that recommendation. Maybe we're out of time, but I just wanted to see if that was a
I mean,
possibility.
you'll be more than welcome to talk to them afterwards, but you won't be able to talk to them now.
Okay.
So do you have something? Okay. You may have to talk to them now. It wouldn't, we're kind of far along in the process.
Understood.
But you can speak to them regardless of what our decision is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the board for their time, thank the city for their time and their help with this. They've been great. Everything was very clearly presented, very professional. And, I think the proceeding has been fair. We've stated the facts that we believe that this application does mitigate an unnecessary hardship. And we strongly urge you to find in our favor. Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I mean, I'll explain. Very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to do some closing statements. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know we both sides have talked about the accessory structure that has been there. Well, unfortunately, even the one that was there was in violation of the zoning ordinance. I mean, it was placed there, not by them, but by the previous owner, and it wasn't supposed to be there. So even if it was there and they just want to replace it, they couldn't even do that, just with one. So the zoning ordinance has these buffer provisions in place to protect a budding single-family residential from these other uses that are not residential. And that's the whole purpose and spirit and intent of the ordinance, is to provide certain buffers, certain widths, certain number of trees and shrubs to help screen these types of uses. So that's the intent. And based on staff's read of what needs to be done or proven in order to grant a variance, staff doesn't feel that this meets the criteria. There is unnecessary hardship would not result from the strict application of the ordinance, because there's other opportunities to place these structures on the 4.6 acres. I mean, yeah, it may cost some additional money to do some grading, put retaining walls in, but that's not deemed a hardship. I mean, there's even possibility they could add on to the church and for storage. Do construction within the parameters that's allowed with side yards and buffer requirements. Hardship does not result from conditions that are peculiar to the property. Yeah, there's some topography issues, but again, I think with some grading, or they could place it on other portions of the site. the hardship results from actions taken by the applicant. Because they're wanting to place these structures within the buffer, the required zoning buffer and the side yard, when there are other opportunities on site to place these. Now, they may not be as desirable for the church because they might be more visible for the folks who are going into the front door of the church if they place it in certain locations. But, there's ways to screen it if they need to do that. So therefore, staff doesn't feel that this variance request meets the criteria. And that's all we have to say.
And my apologies, I didn't see your hand up. I was about to close out. Okay. Any more closing statements? No? Okay. All right. So this concludes the presentation of evidence. The board will now begin its deliberations. Interested parties are not permitted to address the board during this portion of today's meeting. However, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion and vote. So now we are in deliberations. Any board member is free to speak.
I believe that the city puts these buffers in place for a very good reason. And I understand that there was a shed there that was not in compliance. And I'm sorry that it had termite damage, but once it's torn down, then you go back to those required buffers. And because the houses are so close, there is some tree canopy, but these two sheds are considerably larger than what was there before. Because I believe you told me the other shed was about 8 to 10 by 15. And now we're going to a 12 by 20 and there's two of them. So I appreciate that it would be difficult to relocate them on that slope because you would have to grade and you would have to put in some kind of retaining wall so that they didn't, the slope is adequately structured. But I believe that that would be a better alternative than taking away all of this, because you're asking for only 2 feet from the 20-foot side yard, but you're asking for 8 feet from the 26.5 class buffer. So I'm inclined to uphold the city's request not to approve this variance.
I don't have anything additional to say.
Yeah, I would just add that if you're looking at hardship and the word of hardship and you're thinking about this specific application and these specific sheds, if you were applying to do something that was just trying to come back with what you had, and that's all that you could afford, and you just had to have that piece, and, I could understand some portion maybe of hardship, but the fact that you're going back in, you're expanding, you're adding another one, and then you're saying, but we also can't, afford to do this back here because of the cost of it. And, I think that it kind of weakens the argument of hardship in itself. And so that's one consideration amongst many of those.
Yeah, to add to that, as we've discussed shed versus building, obviously these are sheds, a little different character, a little bit larger. You're asking for the variance for the Class C buffer, and the majority of that Class C buffer is not even there yet. So, you already have a lot in terms of the property that you acquired and not meeting some of these setback and Class C buffer requirements. I think you did your due diligence. I mean, this is a lot of drawings for 2 sheds, and you spent a lot of time looking at alternative locations, but I think the piece you missed was the community engagement. Again, that's not, that doesn't weigh into the decision. That's just kind of a recommendation as you move forward to find a solution. Because it could be that some of the alternate locations that you've identified, even though those meet any requirements of city ordinance, you may run into issues as well. So that's just kind of my 2 cents in terms of your path forward.
And for me, I would be inclined to uphold the staff's findings, but I will say this, is that I think both parties did a great job presenting their case today. If the board does decide to uphold the staff's decision, I would suggest, like you said, Mr. Koch, to probably meet with the folks in the neighborhood and try to come to a solution as where would be a happy medium to put the shed. So I think both parties would be able to find some common ground there. But those are my comments there. Any other comments before we come out of deliberations?
Well, I just want to say one other thing as a follow-up to that, that I hope Mr. Scott was sincere in offering his services to help with an alternative site. He did say that he would be willing to work with you to do that. And I would just like to say publicly that I would like to hold Mr. Scott to that. So it wasn't empty words that he was saying just to get the agreement. So I would encourage you to explore that avenue as you move forward.
Okay. So this concludes our deliberations for this case. Now we'll move into a period of voting. Is there a motion on the floor to make sure I'm wording this right? There's a motion on the floor to approve the, huh?
Or
Yeah,
deny.
yeah. There you go. All right. Is there a second?
Court second.
Okay, so the motion's been made by Mrs. Long to uphold the staff's decision to deny the variance, and a second by Mr. Court. Now we move into a roll call vote. Mr. Court? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Vote to affirm the
So I guess you be.
staff's decision.
Yes.
So this is really a motion to deny the variance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
motion, I vote to deny court.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hamid?
Hamid, yes.
Okay, Dryden?
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Long? Wilson, yes. Okay. That finishes voting, the prior period of voting there. Now we're going to look at the finding facts and conclusions of law. Since we are upholding it, we don't have to make
I
any.
make a motion to approve the finding of facts and conditions of law as written.
Court second.
All right, there's a motion by Mrs. Dryden to approve the finding facts and conclusions of law as written. Second by Mr. Court. Now we move into a roll call vote. Mr. Court?
Court, yes.
Mr. Hamid?
Hamid, yes.
Ms. Dryden?
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Long? And Wilson, yes. Okay, this concludes this case. Thank you very much for your time today. And sorry you had to wait so long, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the May meeting minutes and the June minutes, which you received from Terry, I think last week. Huh? Monday. And,
I had one recommendation for the meeting minutes of May.
yes, okay.
On the second to last page, there's a sentence that reads, while the application for a certificate of appropriateness was originally submitted as a multifamily project for townhomes, the record shows that by the first hearing on May 8th, the project changed to 3 detached townhomes on separate lots. And it goes on. I think that we should amend that sentence to put townhomes in quotation marks, because detached and townhomes are two words that may not appropriately go together based on the definitions of the words. We can keep the verbiage the same, but if we add the quotation marks, it will signal that there's.
Tell me again where you are.
All right, so yeah, page 10. So about halfway down the page, while the application of a certificate of appropriateness was originally submitted as a multifamily project for townhomes, the record shows that by the first hearing, the project changed to 3 townhomes on separate lots with no connecting or shared walls, floors, or ceilings. And so my point is, like, once they're.
I'm trying to.
Second.
He's in May. Yeah, May, second paragraph.
And just to help Mr. Court out, the 3 detached townhomes, that was language that came directly from the record. So I think putting quotes around it, I think helps indicate that that's what the record, that's how it was characterized at the hearing in the record. So you're not specifically finding that these are 3 detached townhomes. I think quotations would help clarify that it's a reference to the record.
The word 3, right?
Either detached townhomes or townhome, whatever you're.
So I think quotations around townhouses would be fine.
Okay.
I just don't want to legitimize the phrase detached townhomes, because in my opinion, and based on everything I can find in definitions, a detached townhome is a single family house.
Terry, did you get that? Okay. All right.
I had I still get it.
Were there any other additions to the May meeting minutes or the June meeting minutes? All right, if not, is there a motion on the floor to approve the minutes with edits to the May minutes?
I make a motion to approve the May minutes as amended.
All right, is there a second?
Court, second.
All right, motion's been made by Mrs. Dryden and seconded by Mr. Court. Now to go to a roll call vote.
And Mr. Chair, since we're not a remote meeting, you can do all in favor, say aye. Those
okay.
opposed, no. All right.
All right, so all those in favor of that motion, please respond saying aye.
Aye.
All right. It's nice having. All right, that's the last thing on the agenda, unless there's anything else we can discuss.
June.
We got to do June because we only did May.
Oh, I made a motion for both minutes. So, okay.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I only made the motion for the May minutes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, I'll make one to accept the June minutes as written.
All right, motion's been made by Mrs. Dryden to accept the June minutes as written. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mrs. Long. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes have been approved.
Okay.
Anything else? All right,
Right.
meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.